My husband has been sleeping with our 24-year-old colleague, got her pregnant, and is now pressuring her to terminate the pregnancy so he can keep his perfect life intact. I found out 6 days ago, and I'm about to burn his entire world to the ground before he destroys hers. I'm Catherine, 38 years old, high school English teacher, mother of 3, and apparently the world's biggest idiot. 6 days of pretending everything was normal while my insides twisted into knots. 6 days of watching my husband James kiss our kids goodnight, knowing what I knew. 6 days of staring at our colleague Nina's staff photo on the school website, searching her 24-year-old face for answers I'd never find there. The thing is, I wasn't supposed to know yet. Nina told her friend Rachel. Rachel told her roommate, who happened to be my former student Emma. And Emma showed up at my classroom after school last Thursday. Her hands were shaking. "Ms. Harper, I need to tell you something. You're going to hate me for this, but if I don't say anything, I'll hate myself more." That's how it started. Emma's trembling voice in my empty classroom that still smelled like whiteboard markers and the coffee I'd spilled that morning. James. My husband James. The man who proposed to me on a hiking trail in the rain. Who stayed up 3 nights straight when our youngest had pneumonia. Who still left sticky notes on my bathroom mirror with terrible poetry. Who cried at our wedding. And Nina. Sweet, eager Nina, fresh out of college, hired as a student teacher last year and kept on as a permanent substitute. The girl who'd asked me for lesson planning advice. Who I'd invited to our Labor Day barbecue. Who my daughter Sophie had declared was the coolest person ever. I didn't go straight home after Emma left. I sat in my car in the faculty parking lot for 90 minutes, watching the janitor's silhouette move through the building's windows. My phone kept lighting up with texts from James asking where I was, if I'd picked up the dry cleaning, what time I'd be home. Normal, mundane husband questions that now felt like needles under my skin. I needed proof. That's what I decided, because maybe Emma had misunderstood. Maybe Nina was involved with someone else named James. Maybe this was all some terrible mistake. But I knew. In that sick, hollow way you know things before your brain catches up. I knew. So I went home. Kissed James hello. Asked him about his day at the architecture firm. Made small talk about the kitchen renovation we'd been planning. Then I told him I had a faculty meeting that evening and wouldn't be back until late. I didn't have a faculty meeting. Instead, I drove to Nina's apartment complex on the east side. She lived in one of those converted warehouses with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd helped her move in last August, carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs while James held the door open, making jokes about how many books one person could own. I parked across the street and waited. At 8:15, James's car pulled into the visitor parking. My hands went completely numb. He walked to the entrance like he'd done it 100 times before. Didn't hesitate. Didn't look around. Just pressed the buzzer and disappeared inside. I sat there for 2 hours. When he finally came out, his shirt was untucked. He was smiling at his phone, that stupid smile he used to give me. I drove home a different route. Got there 20 minutes before he did. Was in my pajamas reading a book when he walked in. "Meeting run late?" he asked, kissing my forehead like he always did. "Yeah. Budget discussions. You know how it is." He nodded, yawned, said he was exhausted from a long day at the office. Then he went upstairs to shower. I watched him go and something inside me went very still and very cold. The next morning I called in sick to work. Told James the first had a migraine. He brought me tea, drew the curtains, told me to rest. The moment his car left the driveway, I was at his laptop. James wasn't careful with passwords. Used the same one for everything, our anniversary backward plus Sophie's birth year. Not exactly Fort Knox. I found the emails first. A folder buried in his work correspondence labeled Riverside Project. Clever. Boring enough that I'd never bother clicking on it. But there they were. Hundreds of them going back 14 months. You make me feel like myself again. Like I'm not just someone's husband and someone's father. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about the way you looked at me. I know this is complicated, but I've never felt this way about anyone. Not even Catherine. I wanted to vomit, but I kept reading. There were photos too. Nina in lingerie I recognized from that boutique downtown where James had supposedly been buying me anniversary gifts. Nina laughing in what I could clearly identify as a hotel room. Nina with her hand on James's chest, captioned my person. And then I found the recent ones. From 3 weeks ago.
We need to talk about something important.
What's wrong?
I'm late. 2 weeks late.
Are you absolutely sure?
I took 3 tests, all positive.
A long gap in the conversation. Then.
Okay, don't panic. We'll figure this out.
What does figure this out mean?
It means we handle it. Together. I'll take care of everything.
James, I don't know if I want to handle it. I need time to think about this.
There's nothing to think about. We can't have a baby right now. You know that. My family, my career, the school, this isn't the right time.
When is the right time?
After. Once I can leave Catherine properly. Once the kids are older and can handle it better. We've talked about this.
You've been saying after for almost a year now.
Nina, baby, you have to trust me. I love you. But bringing a child into this situation right now would destroy everything we're trying to build. Everything we've been working toward.
What about what I want?
What you want? You're 24 years old. You don't even have tenure yet. You think you're ready to be a single mother? Because that's what you'd be if you keep this baby right now.
You said we'd be together.
And we will be, but not like this. Not yet. You need to trust that I know what's best for both of us.
I'm keeping it. I've decided.
No, you're not. You're going to make an appointment and you're going to do what needs to be done. Because if you don't, if you keep this baby, I will deny everything. I will tell everyone you pursued me, that you've been obsessed with me since you started at the school, that you're lying about the baby being mine. Your career will be over before it even starts. No one will believe a word you say.
My vision blurred. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely take screenshots. But I did. I screenshot everything. Uploaded it to 3 different cloud accounts. Emailed it to myself at 2 different addresses. Then I kept digging because if I was going to do this, I needed everything. I found bank statements showing cash withdrawals from our joint account that I'd never noticed. Hundreds of dollars every week. Hotel receipts. Charges to jewelry stores for gifts I'd never received. He'd bought her a bracelet in February for $400. On Valentine's Day, he told me we should save money this year because of Sophie's college fund. I found text messages on his phone backup. Not just Nina. There was another number from 2 years ago. Extended conversations with someone named M. Flirtatious, intimate messages that made it clear this wasn't his first affair. That affair had apparently ended right before Nina started. How many had there been? How long had I been living in this carefully constructed lie? I kept searching until almost noon. By the time I was done, I had a complete record of James's double life. Dates, locations, financial evidence, threats. Everything. James texted me around 1. How's your head? Need me to bring you anything? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I called my sister Paula. I need you, I said. Right now. She didn't ask questions. Just said she'd be there in 30 minutes. When Paula arrived, I handed her my laptop. Watched her face change as she scrolled through everything. She was an attorney, family law, had seen plenty of infidelity cases. But this was different. This was her sister. Her brother-in-law. Jesus Christ, Catherine. I know. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But I need your help figuring it out. We spent the next 4 hours planning. Paula made calls to colleagues, got me consultations with 3 different divorce attorneys scheduled for the following week. Started helping me document everything, our assets, the house, James's partnership at the firm, our savings accounts, the kids' college funds. You need a separate bank account, Paula said. Start moving money. Not huge amounts, just enough for legal fees and living expenses when this gets ugly. And it will get ugly. Is that legal? It's community property. You have every right to access it. You're just protecting yourself. Over the next week, I moved money in small increments. 1,000 here, 800 there. Never enough to trigger alerts. Opened an account at a bank across town using my maiden name. I met with 3 attorneys. Chose one named Margaret Reese. She was in her 60s, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for destroying men who thought they could get away with anything. Your husband will hire someone good, Margaret told me in our first meeting. Men like him always do. You need to be prepared for him to fight dirty. I'm prepared. Are you? Because this is going to get worse before it gets better. He's going to try to paint you as vindictive, unstable, a bad mother. He's going to use every weapon he has. Let him try. But here's the thing. I didn't just want a divorce. Nina was 24. James was 42. In our state, there's no law against that, they're both adults. But he was on the school board's building committee. She was a substitute teacher whose employment could be affected by decisions his committee made. That was a power dynamic. That was an ethics violation. That was something I could use. I called the school board president that afternoon. Gerald Martinez, a retired principal who took educational integrity very seriously. Gerald, I need to report an ethics violation. It's extremely personal, but it's also professional, and I think you need to know about it. I met him at a coffee shop. Showed him everything. The emails, the timeline, the evidence of the power imbalance, the pregnancy, the threats. His face went gray. Catherine, I am so sorry. This is completely unacceptable on every level. What happens now? We investigate. We'll need to speak with Nina, with James, with anyone else who might have relevant knowledge. This will take time. How much time? A few weeks, maybe a month. We need to be thorough. We need to do this right. I didn't have weeks. Nina was pregnant. James was pressuring her to terminate. Every day that passed was another day he could manipulate her, coerce her, destroy her. That night at dinner, I played the perfect wife. Made James's favorite pasta carbonara. Asked about his projects at the firm. Laughed at his stupid jokes about his coworker's new haircut. I was thinking, I said casually, cutting into my salad. We should have Nina over for dinner soon. It's been a while. Sophie keeps asking about her. James nearly choked on his wine. Nina? I don't think she has time. She's busy with her teaching schedule and grad school applications. I'll text her and ask. Catherine, don't. His tone was too sharp. I looked up at him. Is there a reason you don't want Nina to come over? He forced a smile. Of course not. I just don't want you to be disappointed if she can't make it. I pulled out my phone and texted her right there at the table. James watched, his jaw tight, a muscle twitching in his cheek. Nina responded within minutes. I'd love to come. When works for you? I showed James the screen. See? She's available. How about Saturday? He didn't speak for the rest of dinner. Just pushed his pasta around his plate while the kids chattered about their day. Saturday came. I told James the first had a work thing, grading papers at the library, and wouldn't be back until late. But I didn't go to the library. I parked 2 blocks away from our house and waited. At 6:30, I texted Nina. Is he there? Yes. He sent the kids to the basement to watch a movie. He says he needs to talk to me about something important. Record it. Voice memo app on your phone. Keep it in your pocket. Don't let him see. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Okay. I waited. 25 minutes felt like hours. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. At 7:15, my phone rang. Nina. Mrs. Harper, you need to come home. Right now. I was there in less than 3 minutes. Nina was sitting on the couch, crying. James was nowhere in sight. What happened? Where is he? She handed me her phone with shaking hands. The voice memo app was still open. She pressed play. James's voice filled the living room. I made an appointment for you. Wednesday at 2 o'clock. The clinic is 90 minutes away, so we'll need to leave by noon. I'll tell work I have a client meeting. James, I don't want to do this. Nina, we've discussed this. It's the only option. Once this is taken care of, we can move forward with our plans. I'll talk to Catherine about the divorce, but not while you're pregnant. It's too complicated. You said that last month. And the month before. And I meant it both times. But you have to trust me. This is what's best for both of us. For our future together. What about what I want? A pause. Then his voice changed. Became colder, harder. What you want. You're 24 years old. You're a substitute teacher making $30,000 a year. You live in a studio apartment. You have student loans. You think you're ready to be a mother? You think you can do this alone? You said we'd do it together. We will. Eventually. But not now. Not like this. I think I want to keep it, James. No. You're going to that appointment on Wednesday and you're going to do what needs to be done. Because if you don't, if you keep this baby, I will deny everything. I'll tell the school board you pursued me. That you've been obsessed with me since you started working there. That you made advances that I rejected. That you're lying about the pregnancy being mine to try to trap me. Your career will be over. You'll never teach again. Do you understand me? Nina sobbing on the recording. You said you loved me. I do love you. That's why I'm protecting you from making the biggest mistake of your life. You'll thank me for this someday. Trust me. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Nina, the recording cut off there. I looked at Nina. She was pale, shaking, mascara streaked down her face. Where is he? He left when you texted that you were coming back. He told me to keep my mouth shut or he'd destroy me. That he'd make sure I never worked in education again. I sat down next to her. My hands were trembling. I'm calling the school board, I said. Right now. Are you ready for that? Nina nodded, wiping her eyes. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying. I thought he loved me. I thought we had a future. But he just wants me to disappear. I called Gerald Martinez. I have him on recording. Threatening her. Coercing her about the pregnancy. He arrived at the house within 45 minutes. Brought another board member with him, a woman named Teresa Kim. They sat in my living room and listened to the recording 3 times. Took Nina's statement, asking gentle but thorough questions. Took mine as well. This is extremely serious, Gerald said when they were done. This goes far beyond an ethics violation. This is harassment. Possibly criminal coercion depending on state law. What happens now? We'll need to hold an emergency board meeting. James will be suspended from the committee immediately, pending investigation. Nina, you'll need to speak with our attorney. Mrs. Harper, you as well. And we may need to involve law enforcement. After they left, I sat with Nina for a long time. What do I do now? She asked. You go home. You tell someone you trust what's been happening. And you make your own decision about this pregnancy. Not what James wants. What you want. I'm so scared. I know. But you're not alone in this. Nina left around 9:30. I was alone in the house. The kids were still at Paula's for the weekend. James was wherever he'd run to. My phone rang. James. Catherine, we need to talk. No, we really don't. This is all a misunderstanding. Nina she's confused. She's young and emotional and she doesn't understand. I have the emails, James. All of them. The bank statements showing the cash withdrawals. The hotel receipts. The photos. The recording of you threatening her about the pregnancy. I have everything. Long silence. Catherine, I'm filing for divorce Monday morning. You're going to hear from my attorney. And from the school board. And possibly from the police. Don't come home tonight. I've had the locks changed. You can't do that. This is my house too. Actually, I can. And I did. Paula's bringing your things to your office tomorrow morning. 10 boxes. That should be everything you need for now. I hung up. He called 23 more times that night. Sent 47 text messages. I didn't answer any of them. Just forwarded them all to Margaret. The story broke in the local news 4 days later. School board member suspended amid ethics investigation involving colleague. They didn't name Nina, protected her as the victim. But they named James. The comment section was brutal. Disgusting. He's got a wife and 3 kids at home. This is why we need better oversight of people in power. That poor young woman. That poor wife. I hope they throw the book at him. James's architecture firm put him on immediate administrative leave. Said they needed to conduct their own internal investigation into whether he'd engaged in similar behavior with clients or junior staff. His friends stopped calling. His golf buddies suddenly had scheduling conflicts. The men he'd spent years networking with, building relationships with, all disappeared overnight. Meanwhile, I was drowning in support. Colleagues brought coffee and asked how they could help. Neighbors left casseroles on the porch. The principal called to check on me. Paula was at the house every single day. The hardest part was telling the kids. I waited a week. Let them settle back into their routine after the weekend at Paula's. Then I sat them all down in the living room. Sophie was 14. Old enough to understand. Old enough to have seen some of the news coverage, even though I tried to shield her from it. Marcus and Evan were 9. Twins. They knew something was wrong but didn't understand what. Dad made some choices that hurt people, I started, looking at each of them. Choices that weren't okay. And now he has to face consequences for those choices. What kind of choices? Sophie asked. Her voice was quiet, careful. The kind that involved lying to people who trusted him. And taking advantage of someone who looked up to him. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Are you and Dad getting divorced? Yes. Because of what he did? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, good. That surprised me. Good? I've heard you crying at night for months, Mom. I've heard you and Dad fighting when you thought we were asleep. I didn't know what it was about, but I knew something was really wrong. And I've been so scared. So if him leaving means you stop crying and we stop pretending everything's fine when it's not, then good. I pulled her close and held her while she cried. While I cried, Marcus and Evan just looked confused. When's Dad coming back? Marcus asked. He's not, sweetheart. Dad and I are separating. But he still loves you very much. That hasn't changed. Did he do something really bad? Evan asked. Yes. Like what? Something I'll explain when you're a little older and can understand it better. They seemed to accept that. Asked if they could go play video games. I let them. That night, after the kids were asleep, I opened a bottle of wine and sat on the back porch. Paula joined me. How are you really doing? She asked. I don't know. Some days I feel strong. Like I can handle this. Other days I feel like I'm drowning. That's normal. You've been through a massive trauma. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. All the times he came home late and I believed his excuses. All the times I should have known something was wrong. Stop. James was careful. He hid it well. This is not your fault. But what if there's something wrong with me? What if I'm the kind of person who attracts men like this? Catherine, listen to me. James's behavior is not a reflection on you. You were a good wife. A good mother. You did everything right. He's the one who made these choices. Not you. I wanted to believe her. But part of me still wondered. The divorce proceedings started in October. James hired Richard Chun, an expensive attorney who specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for destroying opposing parties. Margaret fought back harder. Presented all the evidence, the infidelity, the misuse of joint funds, the ethics violations, the threats against Nina. James's lawyer tried to argue that I was being vindictive, that I was using his mistakes to gain an unfair advantage in the divorce. The judge wasn't having it. Mr. Harper engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate colleague, misused marital funds for that relationship, and demonstrated a clear pattern of deception and coercion. Mrs. Harper's requests are not only reasonable, they're conservative given the circumstances. I got the house. Primary custody of all 3 kids. 65% of our assets. James got supervised visitation twice a month and a court order to pay substantial child support and alimony. His lawyer argued the amounts were too high. That James had lost his position on the school board and might lose his job at the firm entirely. Your client should have considered those consequences before engaging in this behavior, the judge said. The school board hearing happened in November. Nina testified, walking them through the entire relationship. How it started. How James had pursued her. How he'd used his position and influence. How he'd made promises he never intended to keep. I testified too. About what I discovered. About the threats James had made. About finding Nina crying in my living room. Other teachers testified about seeing James and Nina together in ways that seemed inappropriate in hindsight. Whispered conversations in empty hallways. Him giving her rides home. The way he looked at her. The board voted unanimously to remove James from his position. Recommended that Nina be placed on probation for 6 months but allowed to continue teaching. James tried to fight it. His lawyer argued it was a consensual relationship between 2 adults. That the board was overreaching. Mr. Harper held a position of authority that gave him influence over Ms. Torres's employment and professional future, Gerald Martinez said. That creates an inherent power imbalance that makes true consent impossible. The board's decision stands. Nina had decided to keep the baby. Her parents, who I'd met at a school event years ago, were helping her. She'd moved back home with them. I saw her at school occasionally. We'd nod to each other in the hallways. Neither of us quite knew what to say. But then one afternoon in December, she stopped by my classroom after school. Mrs. Harper, do you have a minute? Of course. Come in. She sat down at one of the student desks, looked younger than ever in her oversized sweater and leggings. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly. "For believing me. For helping me. You could have blamed me for all of this and I would have understood if you did. Nina, you were 23 when this started. He was 41. He was on the school board. He had power over your career. There's only one person to blame here and it's not you. I should have known better. I should have seen what he was doing. Maybe. But he manipulated you. He groomed you. He made you feel special and chosen and like you were in a real relationship. That's what predators do." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm keeping the baby. I thought you should know. I'm due in May. How do you feel about that?" "Terrified. But also okay. My parents are being really supportive. They're disappointed, but they're helping me. I'm going to finish the school year and then take maternity leave. If you need anything, recommendations for pediatricians, advice, anything at all, please let me know." "Thank you. That means more than you know." After she left, I sat alone in my classroom and cried. For her. For my kids. For the life I thought I had. Time moved forward the way it does. James tried to maintain contact with the kids, but it was strained and painful for everyone. Sophie refused to see him for the first 4 months. Just flat out refused. Marcus and Evan would go to supervised visits but came home quiet and withdrawn. "Dad cries a lot," Evan told me after one visit. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Is it our fault?" That he's sad. "No, honey. None of this is your fault. Not even a little bit. Dad is sad because of choices he made. Choices that hurt a lot of people." I started seeing a therapist in January. Dr. Linda Cho, who specialized in betrayal trauma and infidelity. "You're going to have trust issues," she told me in our first session. "That's completely normal. What James did wasn't just an affair. It was a fundamental betrayal of everything you believed about your marriage and your life. How do I move past this?" "You don't move past it. You move through it. You feel the feelings. You process the trauma. You do the work. And eventually you come out the other side. Different but whole." It sounded nice in theory. In practice, it was excruciating. I had nightmares. Dreams where I'd find more evidence, more women, more lies. I'd wake up in a panic, heart racing, convinced there was something else I'd missed. I had panic attacks. In the grocery store when I saw someone who looked like James. At school when I'd see Nina in the hallway and remember everything. Driving past the hotel where I'd followed James that first night. Dr. Cho taught me coping mechanisms. Breathing exercises. Grounding techniques. Ways to bring myself back to the present when the past tried to swallow me whole. Slowly, gradually, things got better. I started running. Just a mile at first, then 2, then 5. 3 times a week, then 4. I liked the way it made me feel. Strong. In control of my own body. I started sleeping through the night. Started eating regular meals instead of surviving on coffee and anxiety. Started feeling like myself again, or at least like a new version of myself. Paula kept telling me I should try dating. "You're too young to be alone forever." "I'm not ready." "You don't have to marry the first guy you go out with. Just coffee. Just normal adult conversation with someone who isn't your sister or your therapist." Eventually, I tried. Downloaded one of those apps. Went on a few dates. Most were disasters. One guy spent the entire dinner talking about his ex-wife. Another asked if I was the Catherine Harper from the news and then wanted to know all the salacious details. I walked out before the appetizers arrived. Then I met Tom, a librarian at the public library downtown. Divorced, 2 teenage kids of his own. We met for coffee on a Saturday afternoon and talked for almost 4 hours. "Can I ask what happened with your marriage?" he said eventually. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to." My husband had an affair with a colleague. A much younger colleague. Got her pregnant. It was extremely messy and very public. His eyes widened. "God, I'm so sorry. That's awful." It was. But I'm here now. I'm okay. Are you? Really okay? I thought about it. Getting there. Some days are better than others. We dated for 7 months. He was kind and patient and understanding. The kids liked him well enough. He didn't push for anything I wasn't ready to give. But eventually we both realized we were better as friends. There was affection and respect, but not love. Not the kind that lasts. "I'm really glad I met you," Tom said when we had our final conversation as a couple. "You're an incredible person. Strong and resilient and honest. Whoever ends up with you will be very lucky. You too. Your ex-wife is an idiot for letting you go." He laughed. We stayed friends. Still grabbed coffee occasionally. Nina had her baby in May. A boy she named Oliver. She posted one photo on social media, just his tiny hand wrapped around her finger, and then made her account private. I sent her a card. "Congratulations on your son. Wishing you health and happiness." She replied with a handwritten thank you note a few weeks later. Said Oliver was healthy and beautiful. That her parents were helping. That she was taking things one day at a time and trying to build a good life for her son. James tried to be involved with Oliver. Nina told me we'd started having occasional coffee meetings to coordinate school stuff, that he'd sent money. Asked for visitation rights. Wanted to be part of his son's life. She'd refused. Said she wasn't ready. Might never be ready. That he'd given up any right to be a father when he'd threatened her and tried to coerce her into an abortion. I didn't blame her one bit. Years passed. Life settled into a new rhythm. Sophie graduated high school with honors. Got accepted to her first choice college for pre-med. The twins grew into thoughtful, sensitive teenagers who asked hard questions and actually listened to the answers. I kept teaching. Got promoted to department chair. Started running a creative writing club after school. Found purpose and meaning in work I'd always loved. I met someone new eventually. David, a history teacher at a different school in the district. We met at a professional development workshop and hit it off immediately. We took things slowly, learned each other's stories, built something honest and real. He met the kids after 6 months. Sophie liked him right away, said he was good for me. The twins were more cautious but warmed up over time. Called him Dave and asked him about historical battles and whether he played video games. We got engaged last spring. Simple proposal at home, with the kids present and supportive. James found out somehow. Sent me an email. I hope he makes you happy. I hope you'll be able to forgive me someday for everything I destroyed. I didn't respond. Forgiveness wasn't something James got to demand. It was something I might choose to give on my own terms in my own time. Or not. Now, 15 years after everything fell apart, I'm sitting in my kitchen drinking morning coffee. David is making breakfast. The house smells like bacon and fresh bread. The kids are all off at college and graduate school, building their own lives. Sophie is in medical school. Wants to be a pediatrician. The twins are both studying engineering at different schools, finally coming into their own as individuals rather than a unit. The house is quiet. Peaceful. I still think about those days sometimes. The discovery. The confrontation. The unraveling of everything I thought I knew. The long, hard work of rebuilding. But they don't hurt the way they used to. They're just part of my story now. Part of what made me who I am. Stronger. Wiser. Less willing to accept less than I deserve. More capable of recognizing my own worth. Jennifer still tells me I should write a book. That my story could help other women facing similar situations. Maybe someday I will. Nina is a second-grade teacher now at a different school. Got married 3 years ago to a genuinely good man who treats Oliver like his own son. They had a daughter together last year. I'm invited to her wedding. Sent a gift. We exchange Christmas cards now, which feels both strange and right. Oliver is 14 now. Smart kid. Interested in science and music. He knows James is his biological father. Nina told him when he was old enough to understand, but he doesn't have a relationship with him. James sends cards occasionally. Oliver reads them but doesn't respond. How does he feel about it? I asked Nina once. Curious, I think. But not ready to meet him. Maybe someday. Maybe never. It's his choice and I'm going to respect whatever he decides. James is still out there somewhere, living in another state, working at a smaller firm trying to rebuild. I don't wish him harm. But I don't wish him well either. He's just gone. A closed chapter. Last month, Sophie brought her boyfriend home for Thanksgiving. A sweet, earnest young man named Daniel who's studying to be a teacher. The twins came home too, brought friends, filled the house with noise and laughter. We sat around the table, me, David, the kids, their partners and friends, and I looked around at this family we'd built. Not the family I'd planned. Not the life I'd imagined. But something real and honest and good. What are you thinking about? David asked, squeezing my hand. Just how far we've come. Pretty far. Yeah, I said, smiling. We really have. And that's my story. How I went from being the perfect wife to the woman who exposed her husband and rebuilt her entire life from scratch. I don't regret it. Not for a second. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is burn down what's broken and build something new from the ashes.